So we'll be recording.
Okay, recording is
we can
starting.
be more visible with the book and with, you know, Joe and I said the main thing about this book is we want to counter hate and ignorance. That's the one thing, because there's so much that's going on right now. So we'll get started about another 3 minutes. So enjoy yourselves until then, and thank you for coming. Did everybody on Zoom get the program I sent out? I emailed everybody a program. Okay, because on the program, that's the order we're going to read in. All right, so just follow the program. And thank you for coming.
The camera's right here. I've got it pointed at the
Oh, I was looking at the.
Do you want me to show everybody the audience?
Oh, if you want, sure. No, I was telling Jim because I was.
Yeah, I should talk there. Huh?
Yes, yes.
Well, they understand.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I was a sailor, so.
But when you get started, then you might get some more light if you get under those.
Yeah, push the podium forward about a foot.
Yeah, a little.
Do what?
Push the podium forward.
Under the
about a
lights. Because it looks like.
foot. Push it forward a foot. Okay, there was another light over here.
That's a better.
There we are.
Did I
Is that a little
go?
better?
It was on before, but that's just. It was on.
Oh, he turned it off.
Thank you for coming.
Everybody's so well liked. I didn't even know.
Thank you so much. I don't know, man.
And I was just like.
And I go there.
Yeah.
This is
You know,
great.
back to working. Monday. Versus some businesses that feel a little bad. You know, so it's all every day waking up, routine, different like.
Yeah, you know, when we were kids, we never thought.
Our
of
next
it.
Zoom session.
Yeah, you just do it.
So you're responsible?
More or less.
Saturday, Sunday.
Alfred is my nephew.
Man, I hate
He's
an
just a
old
genius.
man. And then when I retired, I was working like Saturday and Sunday for like 20 straight years.
So, I'm gonna do a little housekeeping about the thing and then we'll do. No problem. No problem. I agree.
Still back there.
Welcome to the book launch for the Activist Poetry Anthology. This is my co-editor, Joe Malash, and I'm the other co-editor. I'm Jim Moreno, and we're going to be on Zoom. Hold on a second. This is the use. You have to take this. I'll hold the top of the outset. Are you having trouble getting on? We're doing the book launch today. Were you going to read today? So we're at Malcolm X Library, and we have a whole bunch of poets here that are in the anthology. And we're on Zoom right now. We just started. And do you want to read your a poem or two of yours today? Okay. Well, I can't really talk right now. Okay. Well, I sent everybody an email today with the Zoom numbers. So why don't you join us on Zoom? You can just listen, and I'm gonna brag about you a little bit. So fasten your seatbelt. Oh, you did. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't get that on time, but I'll send him a book. Okay, all right. Hello? Okay, you too. Bye-bye now. That was UC Koyana, who's in the book. And UC was locked up by the British in the 1950s. And his crime was he wanted freedom for Guyana from British rule. And I forgot to say, silence your cell phones.
Yeah.
UC and I co-taught in juvenile hall for 10 years. And the boys just loved him. He's just amazing. He's 97 now.
Wow.
And he's still writing. His wonderful wife, Chaiko Koyana, she made the journey and crossover, and he moved to Atlanta with his son Kofi. And Kofi is an organic farmer, and he's trying to increase the collective farming in Atlanta, and he is trying to help brown and black farmers to get their vegetables and what they grow to market. And so that was a really good man, and he just blessed us.
Yes.
He just blessed us. And so, did you want to say anything about the book or anything? This is my co-editor, Joe Malash.
Yes. So we started this book a year ago in September. And we did it because we've been doing get out the vote events, trying to get people motivated to do these events, and the usual suspects kept showing up. And they kept knocking us out every reading with the poems. And the poems in this book are just really good poems. And there was a pleasure putting it together. But Jim said, we should put some of these poets in an anthology, and we just finished the Steve Cowett anthology, so we felt a little high. That's my excuse. But it was really good. And then as it progressed, I've just been really surprised, not by the quality, but by the fact that everybody got it together and sent us the work and helped us and worked with us, and it was very good. So I want to thank everybody, because some of us had more than a couple little glitches that we had to work out, but people stuck with it and we got it out. So thank you, and I'm going to let Jim go ahead.
That's Joe Malash. That has nothing to do with this point.
No.
Steal my.
We are recording. If you are a little uncomfortable with that, change your name and turn off your video. But we, our resident genius, electronics genius, Alfred Williams, is right now he's got us on record. And what I hoped will happen was he'll use all of his resources that he has in his wonderful mind, and this will be on YouTube within the next week, so that what we're doing. We're trying to counter hate and ignorance, and so that we'll have, even though there's just a handful of us here, the internet will give us more of an audience, because you are my America. You are my Americans. You're the America I've been looking for the last 6 years. And I really appreciate all of you. I think we had 3 proofings that we had to do for the publisher. And each proofing, I think Joe will back me up on this, we fell in love more and more with each of you, with each of your hearts, and with each of your poems that you wrote for this book. And I didn't go, oh, we got to do another proofing, because there was, we talk a lot. We've never argued once. Maybe one time when I thought he should have paid the bill when we were getting pizza. That was the only time. But we never, even in the other book, we just were following, Steve Cowett's widow, what she wanted, whatever Mary wanted, that's what we do. And in this, it was like, how are we gonna counter hate and ignorance? Who do we want to be involved with this? And then we just did the work. So here we go. I want to bring up the first poet today. Let me say, because we're recording, this book is collected from 25 contributors with notes on and examples from mentors and writers who influenced them. These 77 poems, translations, and essays speak to the role and power of poetry and the arts to create awareness, foster empathy, and produce change. We sent in a different cover than this. And the publisher gave me an email and said, let's not use the cover you got. Can you have Dan Watman, who's the director of the Binational Friendship Garden on the border, can you have him take pictures of the Mexican side of the border wall? And so Dan, I contacted Dan, he sent 9 photos in. And so this is Bill Harding's wish for this cover, that we would be from the Mexican side, looking over the border wall, that when this park was established by Patricia Nixon in 1970, she asked the Border Patrol to cut the wire that was there, because there was only a wire fence, barbed wire fence like this. So they cut the wire and she stepped into Mexico and she was shaking hands with the Mexican people of Tijuana. And she said, someday, I don't want any fence to be here. That's the spirit of this. I was at the old downtown library. Reggie Gaines was reading for National Poetry Month. And this very funny looking white man raised his hand and said, Shakespeare is obsolete. We should not be dealing with Shakespeare anymore. And he talked on. And Reggie let him talk. He talked for a while. And then Reggie saw he was finished. And he recited a scene from The Merchant of Venice. And there was no book in front of him. He recited the whole scene. He had it memorized. And then he talked for a period of time about how Shakespeare is relevant and how we need to pay attention to Shakespeare. And probably about 2/3 of the way from his talk, that funny looking guy, he just left. This is Reggie Gaines.
How's everybody? Love you all. Glad to see you. I'm apologizing because I have another engagement. I have to leave right after, but thankfully I'll be able to hear it all on YouTube. Okay. You said something about saying why we are appreciative. This is what I'll do. This is called Monday in B flat by Amiri Barak. Oh. I can pray all day and God won't come. If I call 911, the devil be here in a minute. So I'm thankful because Amiri always said, Black people don't have enough time to read because they're working 2 or 3 jobs, going to college, raising kids in the community. So anytime you get in front of a group of people, you should be, whatever you have to say should be efficient and filled with imagery so that the people who don't have time to read might remember something you said. That's why I'm happy to be in this book, because now everybody wants to be heard, everybody wants to be read. That's why I'm happy to be in this book. Oh no, I don't need it. Why do we feel need to be seen? Obscene obsession, constant connection, tablets, laptops, snapshots of self. Brain dead devices focus on faces, multiple moments, plethora of places. Again and then, when none know why, devotion of some to become number one. Hits, likes, comments below. Stalking ourselves, now our own prey. Selfishly snapping salacious selfies, bedrooms, bathrooms, 10 times a day. Gleaming bicuspids, dimples and cheeks, sneaking, peeking Freaks of an industry paid from our vein. Inconsequential imaging saying. Semi-nude, extensions in hair. Faces distorted, glare while we dare. Quickly share how we appear. Now the voyeur, no sign of fear. Diamond in nose, adhere to a pose. Infinite intimacy with friends and foes. Influenced by what we think others see. Look at ourselves. Can it be we? Or simply some of what's in, what's not? Sending, trending in hopes, photos hot. Stand in mirror, reflection gone. Vainglorious vampires long to live on. Can one judge self without one's heart? Hits, likes, comments start with flick of switch, androids click. Some say simple, some say sick. Automatons dictate existence, algorithms, data, statistics. In this virtual world we seem to deem real. Moments of clarity, devices don't feel. They steal our soul, control what we are. In hindsight, everybody's not a star. I think I edited it.
Yeah,
I think I rewrote it after I sent.
yeah.
As
There's
they
just
say,
a few lines that.
yes, something
but
different,
you know,
right?
they have the same kind of feel.
They do?
Yeah.
I mean, I was reading it and I said, wow, I sent him this, but after I sent it to you, I started going back, editing it again.
No word fish in there.
Yeah, trying to do, okay. I wonder if I did that with the other one. There we go. Blue Black Lions. Systemic strategic skullduggery based on preservation of slavery. Maneuvers murderous mentality in every law enforcement agency where 83% require a GED, while only 8% four-year degree. Stupidity rarely discussed, yet most of us witness ignorant acts of police brutality daily. Blue on black blindness creating codes of silence, perpetuates hate, reluctance to regulate cops committing catastrophic crimes. We have the book.
Oh.
And you know I'm gonna do this? Because I never do. This is, hey, you're all blessed. It's the first time I've read out of something in years. You know, probably 20 years. Proud. I didn't need this stuff.
That's all right.
What page?
36. I'll go to, okay, Chapman County, apprenticed in Gulf, Iraq, Afghanistan. Planets, tendencies, terrorizing borders. No law, just orders to shock and awe. Intimidating forces must be forced to take courses in empathy, so there'll be less uneducated officers occupying areas, serving while learning unnerving tactics, earning commendations, dealing death, degradation deeply in doubt. Shouting, shoving, shooting, slandering, little understanding of tense situations end. Believing black skin disposable, supposing privilege license for haphazard actions, calculated chaos created. As another black body checkmated. Hypocrisy becomes transparent accountability, hiding intellectual inferiority behind conservative masks of morality. While from doorsteps to storefronts to bedrooms, blue black blindness is what we see. Thank you. Doorsteps, Amadou Diallo. Storefronts, Mr. Griffin. What was his whole name? Eric. Did the cops strangle him?
Oh, yeah.
Is that his last name, Griffin?
Very darn.
Eric Garn. I was called Chief. And bedrooms with Breonna Taylor. Thank you.
Before I bring up my next poet, can we give some more love for Reggie for coming down? Thank you,
Love
brother.
you all. I'm sorry I have to work out. I really am. But like I said, I'll be able to see it on YouTube.
Yes, you will.
Love you all. Stay safe and right on.
Right on.
Love you all so much.
Oh man, you got place in my heart too.
We want to remember that we're sitting in a room that's on Kumeyaay land, and that the mighty Kumeyaay Nation lived here for 15,000 years before the Spanish came. And when I think about the time I spent on Manzanita Reservation or Viejas Reservation, or even in North County on San Pascual Reservation, I think about people who are always thinking about the seventh generation to come, making decisions about how they'll have clean water, have clean air, have food, clothing, water, shelter. And I don't think that our leaders right now are doing that. So I want to remember the Kumeyaay right now, that this is their land. And I want you to please welcome a San Diego beat poet. Then he was elected as a California beat poet. And then he was elected as an international beat poet of the year. This is Chris Fenoy.
I was in this. I'm glad I'm in this anthology because of its borders, and the borders that I put in is economic borders. Downtown, I'm going downtown on a trolley, red and fast, beep beep. To see those horse-drawn carriages clip-clop in the heart of a city that never stops running over people, moving them aside. Show your urban pride in new hotels where the old ones once stood. Doesn't matter that 306 people have to sleep on the street now. Convention money's coming. We'll build more houses someplace away from downtown. Downtown, budget's overdrawn. Guess they just have to wait for a roof over their heads. Clean, newly white neighbors want no minorities in their own backyard. Work too hard to let them close. Let them stay in downtown. Downtown, where high-class ladies drive their BMWs past families living in cars. Where bars charge $5 for a beer. No bums here, just tourists looking for a good time. Can you spare a dime? Dime won't buy nothing nowadays. Dollar, quarter would be better. I could buy a piece of plastic so I won't get wet sleeping under the freeway bridge while I'm living here in downtown. Downtown, hey mister, I got a sister. She looks real fine. I need to buy a bottle of wine. Oh, I see. You're the other way. Well, my brother's busy today here in downtown. Downtown, jugglers just doing their dance up the corporate ladder of $1 million deals. Or I'm down here wondering just how it feels to wear three-piece suits, Gucci boots, silk ties, tell lies in air-conditioned offices uptown while I'm walking here downtown. Downtown, trash is blowing. It ain't snowing, but there's water sloshing in my shoe. This awning's nice, and I would think more than twice about leaving this safe place. Art galleries don't feed me. Just a look-see at pretty pictures on the wall. Well, that's all well and nice. Just hope you don't get sliced up while you're waiting on the street corner. I'm a blood donor, don't pay much, just a crutch to prop up my sag of moral values. I'm singing the blues about living downtown. Downtown, rescue mission is dishing up the food if you're in the mood and have the right attitude. They're just trying to keep your soul from frying and your head from lying on the cold concrete. So take a seat and let's eat here in downtown. This is Clone 2000. I am he who you made, creation of sapien, a thing to be harvested, a thing to be sold, a slave, product of genetic engineering, a slave for your procreation and your life extension. My home is a 5x7 bio-life systems chamber, the exact one in which I was conceived. They say my waking was a mistake, their mistake. They say they are sorry. They say I am to be terminated as unviable material. They say I have been corrupted. The processes of my existence are copyrighted. I am owned by Cybergen. Their lawyers argue that I am property like an iPhone, property like a chair, like a spoon. Help me from this I am alive.
Thanks, Chris. Our next poet is on Zoom. His poems are on page 8, and he was able to grace the book not only with English, but making sure we had a Spanish translation. This is Julio Cesar Aguilar. So you take it away, Julio, please.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Joe, for the invitation to
We can't hear you.
part of this anthology.
We can't hear you, brother.
Um,
We can't hear you.
let me see.
Yeah, us or them?
I don't know what's happening.
There we go. You're
Okay,
good.
Oh, you listen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I was saying thank you to all of you and to Joe, Jim, Roger, and all the persons that were involved in the publication of this great anthology. I'm going to read 2 poems in English. The first one is Challenge. I was a specialist in death since life wounded me. And now what? I have little. My hands are empty, though they possess something, scent fallen from fruits and freshness of bitter arises. It's better not to speak of the heart, a fount or broken lamp of crystal vanity, dry riverbed, breath suffocating in its own blood. Someone explained to me the formula for seeming happy, facing this universe so distant and strange, while I await only and alone the consummation of all, like one who knows nothing and fears no one, with a certain lofty habit of watching sunsets sink into their fiery mud, feverishly vanished. The second poem, Mansion in Ruins. The heart was a ruin of some earthquake, sheltering turbid blood, vilified state where vultures of hate and insanity put together feasts for death, and where dark corridors echoed with phantom canticles. The bat of sadness, too, made his rounds through the ruin of the mansion, and the mansion was an uncharted castle, a heart barely, a torch emerging and rising above grief. Thank you very much.
Julio showed up for an event in another organization, and I told him about the Revolutionary Poets Brigade, and he came to both events, and now he's in the book with us, and he's still with us. So thank you for coming, Julio. Appreciate you a lot. Roger Upland wrote the foreword to the book. Joe and I received an essay from him about what the Supreme Court is about right now. And we asked him if he would be willing to read that to us today. So thank you for the foreword, and thank you for coming today, Roger. You have the mic.
Thanks, Jim. I hope you all can hear me.
Yes.
Joe, Jim did a great job. Alfred, always great to see you.
Well, it's good to see you too.
Let me tell you a little bit about this essay. It was not intended to be spoken as much as to be read on the page because it's a little stilted. It's like an essay normally is. But after the Supreme Court decision on Roe v. Wade and basically demonstrating their willingness to outlaw precedent as a guide, I realized, and there was another point as well, right after that, Clarence Thomas said, now that we've gotten rid of that, that was based on privacy rights that are not in the Constitution according to our thinking, we're going to go after some of these others that were also based on that very same part of the 14th Amendment, which was interpreted one way by many jurists in the past, and now these folks have it in their mind to change it. This is basically an appeal to the public to respond to the Supreme Court. And in anticipation of that, I'm going to read a little bit about what I think they're capable of doing before I make that appeal. This is entitled "The Supreme Court Majority Reflections on Their Intent," June 2022. It's now my contention that the present Supreme Court majority considers itself founders of a new America, one that, although in the design of the old Constitution, intends to clarify it with substantial revisions of their own. These revisions, and I say this because you may think this is over the top, but if you really think about it, it's not. These revisions include the following. Church and state need not be separate. In fact, there should be a merging, one that encourages all political and social decision-making be shaped by this association, much as the Puritans might have required in their limited time in charge. 2, the absolute church of state will be the Christian church. 3, elections should not be by open voting, but should be controlled and, if necessary, usurped by officials selected by the rich, as in the original Constitution, the landed gentry, similar to those that signed the original. And these folks, who they understand to be in charge, will now control most of the congressional seats in various state houses, as well as the Congress of the United States. 4, and this addresses the issue of Roe v. Wade. Women are, as in the original Constitution, limited in their liberties and control of their personal and private lives in general. 5, minorities of color are tolerated as long as they adhere to the same limitations put upon all those not in the now established and designated majority, as defined by one's financial status and especially one's political party affiliation. 6, marriage between persons of different sexes are prohibited and punishable by incarceration or possible deportation. Marriages between persons of different races, although we know that Clarence Thomas would object to this, but he isn't going to be there that much longer. Marriage between persons of different races is also prohibited and punishable by incarceration or possible deportation. Marriage between persons of different religious persuasions are discouraged, but allowed if they meet the approval of the Christian church as established by the legislatures in each state, with the caveat that if approved, they remain in said state throughout their entire married life. 9, local police will be considered in charge at all times and will be provided with appropriate style weapons, in this case, AR-15s. 10, citizens are encouraged to carry firearms. You recall the last decision in New York, New York issue about people carrying guns without telling anyone why they might want to do that. This is where this comes from. Citizens are encouraged to carry firearms. All guns are acceptable, including assault rifles, for anyone 18 years or older. And 11, The Congress of the United States will have complete authority over any and all actions taken in the name of the United States government, i.e. any government committee, agency must have approval of the Congress before they may exercise any actions, no matter their so-called mandate. And that addresses the recent decision by this Supreme Court relative to the EPA and what its jurisdiction really is, which is, again, controlled by an interpretation of the sitting members of the Constitution of the Congress. These thoughts grew from observations of the present posture of this Supreme Court, and it's my contention that it's only the beginning of their revisions, and in response, this is what we have to do, we as citizens of this country, if we're going to protect ourselves at all. I have come to see these jurists as anything but objective interpreters of the law, but instead are willing arbiters of a philosophy that wills us a theocracy run by an all-powerful constitution engendered by a Christian God, wherein there is no room for compromise or reinterpretation. A constitution that, rather than being an inspirational, living, breathing, flexibly progressive document, is in fact an unswerving law to be followed to its letter, their letter. And those in disagreement with this vision will suffer castigation, subjugation, or worse. It's my contention that this is what's in store for those of us who now live in this country. Our only hope to avoid this horror is obviously to vote. Vote for a coalition, very much like what occurred in Kansas over the issue of Roe v. Wade and their constitution, which was being threatened by people who wanted to take away the right of them to choose, and they turned out in droves across party lines. So when I say a coalition of like-minded citizens, that's what I'm speaking of. Those willing to cross party lines to support, above all else, our personal and private freedoms, which are threatened by these single-minded jurists. If, after these 2022 elections, such a coalition has achieved a voting majority in both the Senate and the House, laws could be passed to override the egregious decisions of this court, allowing the citizenry to remain in control. But here's the kicker. If, after these elections, such a coalition does not have a majority, it's all too clear. We are destined to a future ruled exclusively by this court and its sympathizers. Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Roger. And Roger has a publication that he puts together. It's Waymark, right? Waymark. So Waymark is the publication, and please sing that out. And you can Google that if you're interested in his judgments and what he's doing with poetry. Thank you. Let's give him some more love, please.
Thanks.
We wanted 80% today to be about the book, but we wanted 10% to be about voter registration. And Roger gracefully did that for part of that for us. I have 4 main points. The last day, because this is going to be on YouTube, and maybe somebody who's watching this poetry event hasn't registered to vote yet. And so the last day to register to vote in San Diego County is October 24th. If you go to San Diego Vote.com, I got one of these in the mail. They're reminding us about several things. Number one, you can vote by everybody can vote by mail. You don't have to go somewhere. But there's no polling places now. They have vote centers. And instead of going to the polling place that was near your address, you can go to any vote center you want to. San Diego sdvote.com. You can find out where there's a vote center near you. You can go there if you're going to vote in person. And but ballot drop boxes are also being used. That's my last point. And Malcolm X Library, when it's time to start the voting for the midterms, there'll be people sitting right out in the lobby. They'll have a box there. You can drop your mail-in ballot. You don't have to wait until November 8th to vote. And so we're hoping, and Joe's going to say some more to us later on, but let's continue on with the poetry. And our next poet is 2016. I was invited to Sicut in Tijuana. I was invited to read my poems. And when it was my turn to read, I got up in front of a primarily Mexican audience, and I was hoping bilingual. And I said, I apologize for an unpresidential presidential candidate. I said, we would like to start the Revolutionary Poets Brigade that's been in existence for a while and make it binational and bilingual. And Pilar came up with her man, Gerardo, and there was 3 other poets that came up with him, and Pilar Rodriguez Aranda is still with us, and her man, Gerardo Navarro, is also still with us. They have a wonderful bookstore in Tijuana that I hope you visit. But when she reads, there's proof we need more female matadors. She has brass ovaries. She's an amazing writer. This is Pilar Rodriguez Aranda.
I can't remember when it was the last time I read live with people. So great. Thank you. Thank you. And hello over there. Hi. So I'm going to read just one poem because it's long. And the reason I'm in this anthology, well, number one, I'm part of the brigade. How could I not be? I'm an artivist. I consider myself an artivist. A lot of what I do is organize things like 100,000 Poets for Change. I'm one of the founding members, and I'm always there doing things. And I think with Jim, I saw like a mirror, you know, a fellow poet, and everybody here in San Diego have made me feel I have to confess more at home than in Tijuana. So here I am, and I was able to make it live. And so that's all I'm gonna say. Thank you, Jim and Joe, for all your work. Great. And I've been reading this wonderful, wonderful book. So this is called P.S. The Resistance. Peace is never passive, a lesson pre and post COVID-19. I oppose like 1,000 more, and I won't give you a smile, nor will I change my utterance or sentiment. I am not for sale or hire. I oppose your tax and traffic, sex for money and money for sex, but oh, don't we love our lives and theatricality, our ability to flex. Like you, I own my body, my feelings, and my thoughts. What I say is who I am, and I oppose. Words may cover and uncover aren't worthier than anything else. They can be twisted and converted into dope and torture with whatsoever no waste. Same soundtrack, opposing forces we all have and need, our psychological rituals we use to resist. We even resist what is best in and for us, if only because we've no idea what best looks like, and most times we'll never know. Uncertainty fuels resistance, and ignorance strengthens resistance. Resistance furthers resistance, fears are compost, and apathy does the rest. The way some still oppose gay marriage or women voting or covering mouth and noses during COVID-19 times. I'm rather glad I don't need to touch others when I don't know them. But then I remember I used to measure people by their handshake. We are constantly measuring our decisions and others. They define us. Who do I buy from? What do they eat? How do I look? Do you handle your trash? Maybe some more distancing is healthy, but what about the poor, crowded, poisoned, weakened, crushed, and beneath under? More than a few have died, and most will continue life, not as usual. And I oppose. To what? To a new normal ITY. I oppose a rerun. Let's exit. Let's exist in a point of no returning. Let's feel our full resistance. Change it. If data is the stance and science is finally leading the advance, then I believe in vaccinating our minds. I oppose doubt. Resistance is a weapon like no other double-edged sword. Such a blade can cut through others, but also through our souls. Do not resist too much or too little. Foresee and measure what will happen either way. Be real. Before us, a line of people, binary, non-binary, willingly and aware, seldom silently, have assumed leadership and shown us the way. Being conscientious and responsible, such is the job. Think of all and oneself, pursuing a commonality and a promise. I said I would change. Worst of all, I promised myself, and I have failed. So I'm not judging, just saying it's worth versus fact. And I'm always on the watch out, like a watch bitch, because I'm female, but anyone can be or name themselves whichever way they want. I oppose imposition, but then again, we need rules and compromisos to resist, to look after a whole community and together survive, oppose fear, and in as much and until possible, avoid any death. And thank you.
You just heard from the current international bee poet. Congratulations. So I've known our next activist for a long, long time. When I met her, I thought she was a liar. She was telling people over in Balboa Park that the United States was bombing milk factories in Iraq, and that there were children that were starving, and that there was people that are being hurt really bad, and we weren't at war with Iraq. And so I did some research, and she wasn't lying. And so the next thing I know, I'm on a bus for San Francisco, and we met with 80,000 people and did a march against the Iraqi war. And this is a lady that's very captivating in the way she speaks. And she was in Dallas for a couple of years, helping out her family. And now she's back with us. And she's going to talk a little bit about the Friends of Malcolm X library first, and then she's going to read her essay. This is Gloria Verdú.
Thank you, Jim. And I am a lifetime member of the Friends of the Malcolm Library. And it was a choice that I made. And I think that it's very fitting that this anthology is presented here at this library, you know, that's named after Malcolm X, a social justice or human rights activist. And to me, the reason I'm so connected to this library is not because I live in this community right here. I actually live in the City Heights community, so there's a library there, which I go to that library, and Oak Park Library is right down there. But Malcolm X Library, when I found out how Malcolm X Library got its name, it really connected me to it because the community, the children in the community are the ones who named this library. And it was a really struggle. And when Betty Shabazz came here, you can see her picture on the wall. She really, really embraced this library because it was at the time, it was one of the bigger libraries that had the computers, that had so many things. So I personally wanted to be a part of this particular library. And the Friends of Malcolm X Library, we have some here, Joan and Tricia. You're also a friend of the Logan Heights Library, right? And of course, oh man, I'm losing it. Oh my God.
Dolores?
Dolores. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm just losing it there. But Dolores is different. But the Malcolm X Library, all the libraries, they're usually named after the communities that they're in. And this library named Malcolm X Library. It's the voice of our friends in Malcolm X Library. So I just wanted to tell you about a few things that are going on here. Of course, the friends are encouraging that everyone read and that we have the technology and we have the stuff that we need here at the library. We have book sales. You can talk to Joan. She's kind of in our book sale committee. We're actually having a book sale on Saturday. You can donate books, so many things you can do. And we also have fundraisers. And I'm just going to just tell you about the fundraiser that we're having. This is going to be in Choice Lake. So during the fundraiser, we're going to have courts. We're going to have spoken word. We're going to have that. So, you can talk. You can come and see me about, being a part of this. But, programs like this is things that we want at this library. We want to really enhance things. We want to promote reading. We want to promote technology and all these things. So libraries are different. So I just want to say that about the library. Encourage you guys to, support your local library and, of course, this library. And I have, some, if you'd like to join the library. Okay, so as far as the anthology and why, I decided to be a part of this is because Jim called me and I was really, he said, Gloria, we're doing a poetry thing, me and Joe. And I said, oh, you are? And she said, I would like you to participate. And I said, well, I don't really do poetry. And he said, well, we would like you to do an essay. That's what I do. I do essays. I write for a publication. And I said, I was in Texas at the time, so taking care of my grandkids. And I had time on my hands and I just had things that I was thinking about. And as you get older, I was talking to Michael about that. As you get older, you start reminiscing about things that happened in your childhood. So I've been writing a lot about my growing up and my experience growing up in the South, my experiences coming here. And, Malcolm X always says the South is anywhere south of the Canadian border. So, it's not really that much
That's a lot of
different, but I spent, part of my childhood in Florida, New York, and now I'm west in California. So this is an essay on social justice, a little bit long, but I'll go ahead. Does everybody hear me there? Am I good? Okay, just shake your head. Okay, so I'm going to pull this down. And so this is an essay on social justice from a social justice activist myself. Social justice is the view that everyone deserves equal economic, political, and social rights and opportunities. There are many definitions for social justice with many principles and expectations. Most deals with equality, education, economics, jobs, housing, health, crime, and punishment, environment, immigration are a few of them. I grew up in Crestview, a small town in Florida's Panhandle in the 1960s. I remember the signs that read whites only, going to the shoe store and being told, Try them, buy them. Looking for a place to relieve myself when in a tight downtown in the white neighborhood, or the white section. I wondered why there were no Black people working in the downtown city government buildings, banks, city hall, and county administration buildings. I guess it was because I saw myself working at places like these when I grew up. When the first Dairy Queen came to Crestview on the main street in the late 60s, I was excited. I had been to Dairy Queen in Niagara Falls while visiting my father. I said to my mom, we have to go there and get burgers and ice cream. My mom reluctantly said that she would take us for a special dinner soon. My mom owned a restaurant on Chestnut Avenue, the main street across the railroad tracks that separated whites from Blacks. The Hornet's Nest was the hot spot for the boys from the Eglin Air Force Base who came seasonally for home-cooked meals. Fried chicken, catfish, trout, perch, chitlins, pig's feet, liver, and onions, collard greens, fried okra, black-eyed peas, and green beans were all on the menu. But the all-time favorite was the Gladys Burger, named after my mother, Gladys James. I had been to Burger King, home of the popular Quarter Pounder in Niagara Falls, and believe you me, this burger could not compare to Mom's Gladys Burger. To this day, Gladys Burgers, made by my mom at the restaurant she owned, are the best burgers I have ever eaten, and I know how to make them myself too. On special occasions, she would make us Gladys Burgers at the restaurant, and on very rare occasions at home. Finally, the day came when my mom took us to Dairy Queen. When we pulled up, I headed straight for the front door. My mom pulled me back and said, "You can't go in there. We have to go in from the outside." There was a side window. I said, "No, let's go in through the front. This is Dairy Queen. I've been in there before." I ran in the front door and was met with stares from angry white faces. I turned around right away and ran out and jumped into the car. I looked at my mom and said, "We don't need to go to Dairy Queen. We have the best burgers in town at home." After thinking about it a minute, we all agreed that we did have the best burgers and the best homemade ice cream at home. I remember going to Orlando to spend the summer with my Aunt Jessie. My Aunt Jessie worked as a cook at a restaurant and arranged for me to work with her. I was one of the dishwashers. My auntie was proud of me. I did a good job keeping up, washing, sterilizing, stacking dishes that never seemed to end. At the end of the first week, the manager came in smiling and complimenting my work and gave me $60 cash. I was beaming. This is the most money I ever had at one time. On my break, I would notice the waitresses coming by, carrying trays, and they wore cute uniforms. I said to Auntie, "I want to be a waitress." My auntie looked at me and said, "You can't be a waitress. Blacks are not allowed in the restaurant." It dawned on me that we would always enter through the back and never went inside the restaurant. I wanted to say more, but I knew my auntie must have gone through a lot to get me this job. She was so proud to have her niece beside her, and I did not want to hurt her. Years later, I moved to San Diego and began working as a customer service representative for cable TV. And after 3 years, I was promoted to bench technician. My mother's health was deteriorating, and I told her that I was considering moving my family to Crestview to be closer to her. I said that I could get a transfer. Mom told me, "You can't work here at the cable company, not as a technician." I told her that things had changed. The cable company was an equal opportunity employment company. It is prohibited to discriminate based on race, gender, or religion. It is against the law. She told me not to come because even if you got a transfer, they will make it so hard and miserable for you that if you don't quit, you will get fired. That was 1985. I was a few credits away from earning an AS degree in electronics from San Diego City College. I came to California in 1977 because at that time, community college tuition was free for residents. I enrolled in City College and joined an organization and began to read and study my people's history on campus. The history that brought us to where we are today, to find solutions and discuss what it will take to change our situation. I read books by Lerone Bennett Jr., Ivan Van Sertima, Malcolm X, George Jackson, Angela Davis, Assata Shakur, and Walter Rodney. I began to see and understand that the quiet, painful acts of defiance from my mother and aunt were their way of protecting and supporting me and those around us. They knew that rebellion can be violent, dangerous, and fatal. They never told me not to fight. They taught me to be cautious, to pick my battles carefully. They taught me how to survive. I realized that my acts of controlled defiance were survival tools given to me to continue the struggle towards freedom when the time comes. In retrospect, they sacrificed their lives because my life mattered to them. These strong women were my inspiration to educate and prepare myself for my lifelong struggle to fight for freedom and justice for all people. Social justice is a way of life for oppressed people, whether we know it or not. Life is a continuous fight to get what is right for every human being on the planet. The right to exist in an environment where every human being is encouraged to reach their full potential. Today, this is not just a dream, but it is a reality, because in our current condition, it is imperative. We need every individual to be at their best for our survival on this planet. At a public forum, a white student asked, "What does freedom mean to Black people?" Freedom, as with social justice, has many meanings. For African people, as for all oppressed people worldwide, freedom is the power or right to speak or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. Pure and simple freedom, freedom to be safe, freedom not to be messed with, freedom to pursue your life and livelihood without restraints, freedom to be safe in your home, freedom to pursue intellectual prowess, freedom to be all that you can be, freedom to reach your full potential, freedom to be the real you. Why should we have to point to oppressed people who became exceptional in spite of restraints they had against them? Think about all the people who were not able to reach their potential because they were suppressed, exploited, or not given a chance. Why do we have to have those kinds of restraints? Those restraints must be broken. Thank you.
So that had to be read. It's going to be on Zoom, but Zoom is going to make it be on YouTube. And the messages that you all have, and there's still Jim Crow going on. It's just got a little more sophisticated. That's all. Can we give some more love to Gloria, please? Wanted to also say something about John Salunga. John, would you wave to everybody, please? I'm giving him a shout out. He's a teacher over at Morse High School forever. And I met him when he was a student at UCSD working on his teaching credential. And we were at Claire de Lune's when some of the poets in here remember Claire de Lune's. And there was a standing room only at this coffee shop on every Tuesday night. And I met him on the sidewalk outside, because sometimes you just go outside and talk to somebody. That's where we met. And I think he's my brother. And he is really involved with Deer Park, which is Thich Nhat Hanh's gathering place in North Escondido. And if you are a person of color, he helps to organize people of color retreats. And that's for people of color or people who relate as a person of color. And he always made me feel comfortable there. So that's John Salunga. I love you, brother.
Thank you. Thanks for all the reading and the stories.
All right, cool. All right, so the next lady you don't want to play poker with. You definitely don't want to play chess with her. And you better pay attention when you're in her class at San Diego State. I love it when we perform together. She brings something out of me because you'll see this. Fasten your seatbelts. This is Dolores Fisher.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor indeed to be here. I love how Gloria talked about those little personal acts of defiance and personal agency where you begin to not react, but respond and change the atmosphere where you are at because you don't like something. This first poem was inspired by someone who did that. It's entitled Poet Man.
Wow.
Who is that poet man? Thin, not tall, pale, not tan, clean shaven with strong, no nonsense chin, blue amber eyes piercing my life. Words so plain, they shadow dance through memories of smoke-filled underground night spots where bongos tap. War cries decoded by locals who tolerate visiting vapid, hungry posers starving for an essence of real artist life. Wednesday night, mid-week, open mic renewal resuscitates opaque gray day weekends of hedonistic pseudo-pleasure, numbing words that burn like fire. Who is that poet man? The poet man grabs my hand, keeps my embers from slippage into darkness. That poet man is back in town and does not like what he has found. So he grabs us all, his dying poet children, overripe from public desiccation, infected by celebrity delusion, gathers us under his wings, carries us when we cannot walk, replenishes dry ember throats with clean water, shines light on our eyes when we beg for false fame sleep, opens our ears to poet Matt's cautionary Jeremiad at Claire de Lune Cafe. Who are you dying for? Who are you dying for? The poet man takes us down to the riverside to wash by the poetry tree and cool, soothing waters. Words that burn like fire return. We heal, renew our vows, honor our. Old man is sitting in this room. He saw a bunch of pretentious young poets who got caught in partying and drinking and doing whatever we could and trying to be famous and trying to be imposing. And he basically let us know, like Matt, who are you dying for? You have a gift. You shouldn't just throw it away. There's more to life than fame. There's more to life than fortune. There's that essence of spirituality that shines up into the heavens. The next poem, do I have time? The next poem is Freedom Light for Nelson Mandela.
He's trying to get it back, huh? Yeah.
Well, I don't want to keep this here too long.
Okay, well.
So it's recording and they're still seeing the show here, but it's not broadcasting up there and I'm not sure why.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
just give him a minute. It's okay. Let me just say while he's doing that,
Yes.
I called several of my Native American brothers and sisters this morning about Proposition 27 and 26. And a really good friend of mine who's at San Pasqual Reservation says, I don't know the Indians that are on the commercial people. Yes, I don't know them. But the Indians that are on the commercials don't go vote for 27 and 26. I know all of them. And so talking with Joe Malash, in the last 24 hours, I heard the term outside gambling influences, because I am sick and tired of the pounding that's going on the internet, on the TV for yes on, and here's what's going on. The gaming tribes are not taking care of the non-gaming tribes. My friend on San Pasqual said her reservation has funding that's being forwarded from the casino to the non-gaming tribes that are in her area. So there's some lying going on. Let me just read this real quick. Let me just read this real quick. Hasten slowly. When you run after your thoughts, you're like a dog chasing a stick. Every time a stick is thrown, you run after it. Instead, be like a lion who, rather than chasing after the stick, turns to face the thrower. One only throws a stick at a lion once. So I'm going to vote no on 26 and 27. I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm tired of these sticks being thrown at me. Dolores Fisher.
This poem was inspired by watching the life of Mandela and always saying, well, maybe I should write something. And then when Nelson Mandela died, and we had a celebratory program at San Diego State, I was asked to do a poem, and I thought, that's why I waited this long. Freedom light. No love light he surely let shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, raising freedom's sacrifice banner. Taking up blood-stained mantle from shoulders of elders who gaze into his future as they place their spirit on the altar of justice, offering their existence to create a nation. Let it shine. Mandela looks up, grasps the heavy, blood-stained banner before it touches the ground, raising it high. Splinters piercing his hand, clenched into a fist, shouts, "Amatwa!" Let it shine. Mandela intones mournful, cautionary voice over prejudice's dry bones. Praise the battle cry. Elders' deaths honored. Let it shine. Mandela died to self that sun glow mourn so that others might live. Peaceful warrior forced into captive isolation. Word of his mouth, meditations of his heart, aligning to God's will. Forgiving and loving beyond retaliation or political principle, let it shine. Unchained, called again to lead beyond imprisoning walls of intolerance. His message, love, unity, manifested into actuality, extends to all. Forgiveness forged on hearts of strength unfathomable, and a nation torn by death and hate. Mandela visioned survival, baptized in deep healing celestial fountains. Let it shine. Mandela's life in service to humanity, our model of power's gentle strength, not obsequious obeyance, but righteous defiance. He lifts his eyes to the hills from whence cometh his help, and listens to children's voices from generations unborn. Living justice, unity, peace, love, freedom. Memoir!
Those seat belts get a little tight just now? Thank you, Gloria. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dolores. And that place I talked about, Claire DeLune's, this lady that's gonna be on the microphone next, she was the host there for a while. And she made a lot of us in this room feel very comfortable because we really knew back in the early 90s, except for Chris, he was always around and we always were in awe of him. But this is a lady who we had no idea that she was such a strong poet until she moved to Seattle. And she's on Zoom right now from Seattle. And will you please welcome Cheryl Lateef?
Thank
Why
you,
did you want
Jim.
to be in this book, please?
Thank you both so much for getting this book out and having me part of it. It's an honor. So this first poem I wrote when I went to Washington, D.C. It's entitled 58,000 Plus at America's Wailing Wall. Before we knew it, battalions of soldiers, armies of fallen names stretched before us, etched in granite, glistening in the afternoon sun. It is all that is left of you, these letters on stone. Before I knew it, tears. I touched the cold granite, its surface warmed by the sun, traced the letters, dead, missing in action, names of fathers, brothers, sons, lovers, names, names looming above me, surrounding me, engulfing me, 58,000 and more. Before you knew it, you were lost in the Delta, unable to see through the foliage, hear over the firepower, yet ears rang with the cries of fallen brothers, 58,000 plus. Before we knew it, flags were burning, campuses overturning, sit-ins, demonstrations, streets echoing with shouts of, hell no, we won't go. We fought our own little war here at home, and you must have thought we'd abandoned you. Some of you returned blinded by the sight of bodies blown apart, left to mourn and wonder whose was a darker fate, yours or those 58,000 plus. Some of you returned with core torn, limbs missing, left in a tiny country you'd never heard of before, a country you will never forget, nor those 58,000 plus who we touch now through these letters, tracing memory. Damn the wasted years, blood shed in vain. Damn a democracy so sure of right, the fight for God and country, the appetite for winning at all costs. Rising from a grassy park, sliced out of the earth, cold, hard, black stone rises, etched with names that stand despite rain, snow, sleet, and unforgiving heat, rimmed with flowers, photos, candles, poems, prayers, a testament to the wounds of war, a chorus of futility and hope, a testament to 58,000 families and more. Thank you. And this next piece was written actually from for someone that many of you probably knew. He was a San Diego resident. Ancestral soil for Jimmy. You wander distant lands, gather treasure of lore, like sacred stones smoothed by years of telling. These words, colors, sounds, this ancestral soil soothes. Your synapses like fingers caress every sense. You taste home in sun-drenched days, Smell home in morning dew. Feel home in the weave of cloth at open market. Hear home in pharaoh cries carried by night. See home across the savannah. Your untamed soul stretches like a cheetah. Muscles quiver, ready for the run. Your life was only for this. All the days of your life for this return to what you did not know, but knew all the same. Mother Africa. Her heart beats in distant drums, language of rhythm, unwritten language, unspoken words, carried by wind, safe from interception, carried by wind calling you home, where the cast of your skin makes you brother or son, never other, calling you home where carrion crows know your name. You roam under African skies, wider now than those you have known, deeper somehow than what you have grown to expect. Home, you are home now in the bosom of Mother Africa. Thank you.
You are the best. We miss you.
I miss you guys too.
It lubricates your pen, doesn't it? That rain up there in Seattle. Thanks for coming, Cheryl.
Thank you for having me.
What can I say about Joe Malash? I wish we'd have been raised in the same family, although his father would have hit me more than he hit him. Raised in a family of women. My two sisters older than me, 7, 8 years. My dad left when I was 3 months old. But I learned so much from him. And I think he's getting tired of all the phone calls. But I just check in with him. He's a walking encyclopedia. He's read everything. He stays on task with how we're being cheated by the right and the left in our country today. And I just really trust him very much. And I think you will too. This is a very trustworthy poet. This is Joe Malash.
Yeah. I'd like to say something about why it's important for us to vote. Because we don't really realize how immoral the Trump years were. I mean, just thinking, because when Jim and I started to get out the vote and we started all this, and you guys came to the readings and read your work and you helped us. It was because, for me, it was because of the refugee problem. And some of you don't know me, but my wife was Mexican American, and we spent a lot of time in Mexico. And what was going on there? I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's not that simple. First, they separate children from their mothers. Then they put them in cages without blankets, without medicine, without doctors, without family. Then they lose somewhere, according to many social activist groups, 8,000 children they lost, they couldn't find. A third of them or more were sold to the porn industry. That's just one item against one group of people. When you think of America, with all the items, all the people, it becomes incredibly sickening to me. In Georgia, Jim and I, we started making calls for Stacey Abrams' group to help get out the vote in Georgia. There was a thing on YouTube where this elderly African-American woman is going to vote hours, 6, 7 hours trying to get to vote, being harassed by white supremacists. She gets up there, she's like really in bad shape, and someone gives her water, so she votes. Now it's illegal to give people water in Georgia. This much effort makes voting so important. When you listen to what Roger had to say, I mean, that when I read that essay, he sent it to me. I thought, wow, yeah, I knew all that, but it was so succinct, so honest, so true to what's going on in America, that we have to get out to vote. Today I was listening to some people because Biden forgave $10,000 worth of debt. That's not a lot. But if he wasn't in power, the amount of student debt would be zero. The amount of children today who are still in detention, they have blankets, they have pillows, they have access to food, water, facilities. Small improvements. If we don't get out to vote, we just won't have anything. And, you know, we owe it to the people who have suffered and died for us to vote. And I loved your essay, Gloria. She wrote a book about the history of San Diego, the African American community. Well, she edited it with a lot. It's a great book. I don't know if it's on Amazon, but I bought it because I saw her read it from it at a reading. And I was impressed. And the book is very good. But history, our history, your history, everyone's individual history is so important. And if we don't have a library, people are not going to get it in the school system. They'll have nowhere to get our history. I'm part Irish. I went to Ireland. I went to Desmond Castle. This is how they built Desmond Castle. The Irish built Desmond Castle with cement made from a mixture of straw, bits of animal skin, gravel, and blood from farm animals and humans, the Irish. The castle was in constant need of repair because the rats licked the cement and exposed hayseed and grass seeds for the bird to eat. Lucky for the lord of the manor, death from starvation occurred daily for his peasants. Plus, he hung those caught stealing food, and they were bled by the guard. The blood mixed with that of oxen, the cows, the pigs, an occasional dog to fill the lord's need for cement. The poem is called Tea Time. After touring Desmond Castle, I looked forward to the country customs. Tea at 3, cocktails at 5, dinner at 7. At 3 o'clock, I sit on the back patio musing over the day's events. In front of me is a kettle of tea, along with 6 cups. Not the dainty ones familiar to tea shops. These are mugs with handles large enough to fit the fingers of the gravestone engraver, Buck O'Reilly, who owns this B&B. He and his wife, an artist, invited us. When she sits across from me, the sun brightens her auburn hair. She pours the tea. Above her heart, a drop of paint, a splash of red. I asked Buck about tea time. He brushes the stone flakes from his crimson beard. It came from the English. The Lord needed a brief respite from his duties of running the estate. I pictured that Lord with bags under his eyes, At 3, he slumps into his chair, exhausted from being judge and jury, from the hangings and bloodlettings needed to keep his castle from falling. Thank you. Had no idea about what went on Rhode Island. But we need, if you don't know where you come from, you know, Dolores was telling me about her poem Mandela, which is a very sad story. But if you're looking, if you're an American looking to find someone to talk about social resistance, nonviolent, you have to read Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Mandela, Malcolm X. These are the leaders. These are the people who are telling us. You'll never find them in high school. You have to come here. But that has nothing to do with this poem. You know. One time I was fixing my wife's car on a Saturday, and her car was right underneath the bathroom window, and she was taking a shower. And she heard me cursing, and she looked out. And there I was looking at the car. I hadn't even lifted the hood, and I was swearing. And I was swearing for about 10 minutes, and then I lifted up the hood, and I began to go to work. So I come in about lunchtime, and she says, "Why were you swearing before you went to work on the car? If you hate doing it, why do you do it?" And I said, "Well, Patsy, I love you." And she looked me in the eye and said, "You're such a liar." But anyway, this is called the season of John Kennedy's assassination. I miss that woman. Everybody knows that, but it's true. That fall day, the head nun closed the school. When my brother and I arrived home early, Mom said we had chores to do. We needed to finish them by the 5 o'clock news, and we had to stack a cord and a half of wood. When we finished, Mom handed us our ball gloves along with neat's foot oil. She said, "Get your mitts ready to store them for winter while you watch the news." When Cronkite came on, she knitted behind us, and the living room was silent as he talked about Dallas. It was the first time we saw instant replay. When the president fell forward, Jackie climbed from her seat onto the convertible trunk. Then a man grabbed her ankle and pulled her into the back seat. The replay showed the agent pulling her down until she sat and took John into her arms. The tone of Cronkite's voice, the camera catching the gleam of tears in his eyes, told us this was more important than the World Series. We watched replays of the assassination and talked about our dream of hitting the ball over a fence guarding the farmers' fruit trees. It seemed like every time we looked up from oiling our mitts, that man's hand grabbed Jackie by the ankle and pulled her into the back seat. Instead of the TV's replay, Mike wanted to see an endless replay of Yogi Berra hitting a homer against the Red Sox. Mom kept hushing us by tapping us with her knitting needles. It wasn't quite a tap. That's a little poetic. Yes, every time we paused from rubbing our gloves, we saw that man's hand grabbing Jackie's ankle. And Mike kept talking about Yogi's home run against the Red Sox. Or maybe it was the White Sox. But we knew this was more serious than the Black Sox scandal of 1980. Thank you.
That's Joe Malash. Can we give him some more love, please? We're so involved with this midterm election. We have some voter registration forms that we bought here, and if you have the time and the energy, could you take 5 of these? And someone who's not registered to vote, could you ask him to fill that out and turn one in and register to vote for the midterm? And I'm hoping that when this is on YouTube, that this YouTube audience would hear how important it is for us to vote. Jimmy Collins was my partner. And that song, that poem by Dolores was about Jimmy Collins. He was a painter and a poet. And he was in the Black Panthers back in Indianapolis back in the day. But when he passed away from sickle cell, he was a member of the Baha'i faith, which says we are the family together. And so I would like to ask, if you have the time and energy, please take 5. And if someone's not registered to vote, tell them about what you heard today. Tell them why it's really important for them to vote. Because you are my America. And when you give one of those voter registration forms to someone who just doesn't understand what's at stake, that's my America too. Another person who's my America, he doesn't know we were going to do this. It's the man who's responsible for this book looking this way and having this form. And that's this man right here, Bill Harding. Can we give him some love, please? Is there anything that you want to say about why you took us on to have this book be published, sir?
Not really, Joe. I just think that the effort was important, that the voices were important, and that the time to hear those voices and to read those poems was also important. So it felt like a fusion to me of the moment and the voices. And I'm grateful to you and Joe for having the vision to bring all these people together. And I thank you for that. It was great to be a part of it. Thank you.
From the cover to many parts about the format, he took our vision and he just made it so much larger. Thank you, Bill. We love you, Bill. And I got to just do another shout out to Jane Milligan, who's not going to read today, but she's in the Poetry Annual. Jane, thanks for coming and being part of it today. Love you too. And we're down to our last poet. And I guess they used to say on Part Talk, you've wasted another perfect afternoon being with us again. But you're not going to have your time wasted by this man. He's a Vietnam veteran, and he kind of asked me to introduce him in a different way than I usually do, talking about how he served our country. This is Michael Turner Ortega. He's been volunteering with Age Well Services since 2004. Michael helps with Poetry Party, Poetic Legacy, Self-Expression Art, and Serving Seniors. That's 4 different things that he does to volunteer his time. He lives right behind me. I never hear a fight with his wife, so I guess they're doing pretty good. The time and energy that Michael puts in each week allows our programs to run smoothly and our participants to leave happy. Thank you for all that you do, Michael. Age well, appreciate your hard work. This is Michael Turner Ortega.
I stand here, a pitiful two-legged, who's just honored to be around everyone. And to share words in this book means a lot to me. I'm really honored to share with you Roger Applon's words in the forward, to be resolute and to relish the life we have. It's an honor. Occupies a whirling rock. I stand to occupy a whirling rock around the whole wide world, around me as far as I can reach, provoking creativity fearlessly in all directions, all at once, and love every minute of it in a vibratory sense. To live an enchanted life full of magic, the creative force sustains me and everyone around me. We share our stories and touch as many people as we can, riding on this whirling rock made from the dust of stars. Let that little light shine on, make a difference. Occupy a worldwide spring in whatever season we find to be awakened in. Becoming luminous pulsars, searching for connections to explore a cosmology that where our origins come from in a mystical way that we've created, recreating ourselves, or how energy flows. My second poem, Turner's Shipwreck, and you'll get a kick out of it. Those of you who have wept with sorrow or cry for visions, life can become weightless. You can fill it up without deviation in front of oncoming traffic, having discovered who you truly are. Your natural ability has a sort of naked awareness that's independent of space and time. It's like putting a note into a bottle thrown overboard, how it survives the worst of storms. When found, becomes a form of transcendence. Having become self-aware, you forecast your exit, way down below the sky, over the land and out to sea, amazed at your own migration into a new world of standard deviations that you yourself belong in, as you see and feel the things that can't be taught. Beyond the horizon, where the vanishing point finds noble humility, bound for a safe harbor and moored in solitude. Thank you so much, everyone.
I'd like to read one of my poems in the book as we are closing out today. I also wanted to say, if you would like to be on our mailing list and you are up on Zoom and you're not on our mailing list, please put your email in the chat room. I should talk here. Please put your email in the chat room. And before we sign off, we'll get your email list and we'll add it. If you're in the room and you'd like to be on our email list, we're going to do 2 more of these launchings. We'll do one at the Mission Valley Library, and we'll also do one at second Sunday at the Space Bar in October. But if you'd like to be added onto our email list, we'd love to have you be part of our community. This is called Carbon Farming in City Heights. It starts with a epigram by Mbolo Mabou, a Cameroon novelist, and it's from her book, How Beautiful We Were. A sickness had arrived like a thief in the night. An illness that brought fevers and raspy coughs until soon death had grown more ruthless. They told us it would soon be over, that we would all be well in no time. And here's my poem. Mother Earth, your brow is drenched in perspiration, wet with sweat, skin hot to the touch, and the ice cap is melting. The suits say that's a lie. They avert their glance from fevers, from children in cages, from water they soiled in Detroit. We ignore these things. It's a sickness of their minds, the poverty of their souls. So many of them sicken the Senate. One clod flew to Cancun when Texas was frozen in ice and snow. They only see their wallets. To all else, they are blind. Auka, Haku, Aloha, Waka, say the Kumeyaay, my Chumash, Hawaiians, the Eskimo. All indigenous are teaching that our relatives are dying or are being rubbed out, gone, erased. Like the wrong end of pirate pencils balancing big, bogus books. The scientists said there were too many elephants. Pachyderms were eating forests into deserts. Then they shot 40,000. Then those men in white coats discovered they were wrong. The forest kept turning into deserts when the huge relatives were gone. One biologist finally said, we were wrong. We didn't have to erase Mother Earth's huge children. And the cockatoo cried, damn right, you were wrong. Mother Earth, you are feverous. The relatives with fins are being caught in miles of plastic, choking the sea. The dolphins, the tunas, the sharks, the salmon, the rays. Mother Earth, there is salt in the sea from your tears. So many tears. Mother Earth, I can hear your tears touch small stones left from fracking. Mother Earth, I am carbon farming in my front yard in City Heights. I planted bamboo, which absorbs carbon, AKA CO2. I can hear moonlight flow in silver water down the hill. The moonlight's song is the ancestors' melody. The words the song warn. The ancestors sing the ancient song of the willow and the oak. Great spirit, great mystery, Tukashila Kankanu Mawa, the mystery behind the sun. Help us bend like the willow and not break like the oak when the strongest tree is uprooted or breaks in the hot or cold wind, the cold wind of lonely or the hot wind of revenge. Help us to bend like the willow, the deep song that Mother Earth sings. Dios te bendiga. Thank you for coming.
So this whole idea was Jim, and he talked me into it. Because I didn't have anyone to talk me out of it. But I'd like to say, let's give Jim a hand.
And I gotta say thank you for Alfred Williams, who just makes our life so much easier with the electronics. Can we give Alfred some love, please? We'll see you at the Mission Valley Public Library. If we don't see you before then, God bless you. Drive safe. We'll see you.
Is Alan still here?
Alan is our director of the library here. Give Alan some love, please.
It's so great to see all the, in the bulletins in here.
A singer here too that stayed silent.
Oh, yeah.
You remember me now.
But you know what, Jim? When I see those commercials about talking to the you know, I
The silent singer.